Jake Guentzel has shined at the Four Nations tournament, but what will the Tampa Bay Lightning be looking to do at the NHL Trade Deadline? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Lightning, Josh Sperber. And Josh, let's start with the World Cup. Jake Guentzel looking really, really good. Your thoughts on his performance so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just loving this Four Nations because Lightning players are doing so well. I mean, in every single game, at least one guy from the Lightning has an assist, and Guentzel has goals in each of the two games. 3 points, 2 goals and an assist for Guentzel, 2 of them with a goalie in the net, getting that empty netter to seal it last night against Canada. I mean, he's been excellent, and it's really just been a continuation of what he's brought to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think he is just, time and time again this year when the Lightning have needed a goal, he's been there to help set it up. He's just a really smart hockey player. He gets to the right spaces on the ice and just dominates. I mean, plain and simple. He's been one of the best acquisitions, if not the best offseason acquisition in the entire NHL this season, I think. So I'm just honestly blown away that he's even on the Lightning. I have a friend of mine actually from North Carolina, and we were talking a little bit around when Guentzel got on the Lightning, and the one text that I remember that just like lives in my brain every time I see Guentzel score a goal is he texted me back. I can't say the first word because it starts with an F. I can't believe you guys have Guentzel. He's so, same word again, good.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah.
Great pickup. No question about that. Are you surprised at the intensity and the physicality we've seen at Four Nations?
The physicality, and by that I mean the 3 fights in 9 seconds on Saturday night, a little bit, yes. I did expect this to be a little less physical in terms of the fight. That being said, I could have told you that if there was any game where this would happen, it would be USA versus Canada. I think that part is less of a surprise, given the kind of charged political climate surrounding an already pretty intense hockey rivalry between US and Canada. But no, I think the intensity of the play is fantastic. I mean, John Cooper called that first game, Canada versus Sweden, the fastest hockey game he's ever been a part of. It's certainly the fastest one I've ever seen. And while the speed might not have been there for the entirety of that game of USA versus Canada, I mean, this whole tournament so far has just been some of the best hockey games that I've ever watched. I really think that this is the best thing for the NHL during the All-Star break, for sure.
Yeah, no, this has been a pleasant surprise in my opinion. The Lightning won 4 in a row before the Four Nations break. I mean, does it mean that this was ill-timed for the Lightning as they were playing well?
I mean, it certainly helps now that, I mean, you look at the players that the Lightning have in the Four Nations tournament, and all of them are guys that are key to what the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing. You've got Cirelli, Point, Hagel, Guentzel, obviously, like we've been talking about, and of course, Victor Hedman. Those are 5 guys, with the exception of Nikita Kucherov, that are probably most key to what the Lightning do. Maybe put Vasilevsky in there, but the point is these are 2 of the 5 most important players on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're still getting significant run during Four Nations. So, I mean, yeah, you'd like the whole team to just kind of keep the momentum going, but I don't think that just a break after a really strong run of games from the Lightning is going to stop them. I think they're just locked into playoff mode right now because, I mean, you walked around the locker room, you talked to the guys before the Senators series, before those 2 road games against Atlantic Division teams, and every single one of the players used the word playoff at one point or another. I mean, that is just the focus that is with the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. They know what they have to do to win. They're an experienced team, and now is the time of year where it's just crunch time and they get to focus on it. So, would it be nice to carry a little bit more momentum from the 4-game win streak into longer in the season? Yeah, sure. You always want a little momentum, but the Lightning, I think, can get it back. They've got 3 games at home against some solid competition right after the Four Nations break that I think is going to do them well and hopefully continue their streak. And if Guentzel keeps playing the way he's been going in Four Nations, then the Lightning might not lose again. So that's pretty great too.
The Lightning are in an interesting spot. They are they're able to compete for first place, and yet they're not that far ahead of the wild card teams. What do you think they'll look to do at the trade deadline, if anything, and what are they willing to give up?
Willingness to give up, I feel like, is a bit more complicated. But I've been saying on Locked On Lightning for months that the Lightning need to make a move at the trade deadline. I think they should get a forward. I think that's where they need a little bit more depth on defense. Yeah, it might be nice if they got another defenseman, but they are hoping to get J.J. Moser back after the Four Nations break, which will give a little more depth into their defense. And I think, honestly, set them up because if you look at the Lightning's farm system, if you look at, guys like Max Crozier in Syracuse or Declan Carlisle, who have already played in the NHL this season from the AHL, I think that's where the future of the Lightning defense lies. I really don't think that right now a defenseman that they acquire at the deadline is going to make that much of a difference. That's not the case on offense because, you look at the Lightning's first 2 lines and you think, why the heck do they need another forward on their team? They have the greatest collection of scoring talent in the NHL in their first 2 lines. I mean, it's ridiculous. But you look at the bottom 2 lines, point production compared to those top 2, and there is a huge drop-off. So getting a bottom 6 forward, I think, would be exactly what the Lightning need during this trade deadline.
How much cap space are we talking about that they have, and are there any ways to free up more if they need it?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to have to give up some prospects. They only have, I think, over $1 million, $1.5 million in projected cap space right now. So they're going to need to move. They might need to move a bigger player, but you look at some of the guys that have been kind of up and down a little bit in the NHL this year. Connor Sheary might be someone that you could move to just get more NHL time on a contending team. Jack Finley has been up. Dylan Duke, I think, is someone they're not going to want to trade. And maybe even Gage Gonzalez might be on the don't want to trade list. I mean, the Lightning have guys that have been up and down in the NHL this year that I think could move. They've got some players. I think they've got some forwards that they can move to make room for Isaac Howard when he comes in from Michigan State, because the way that the Lightning management are talking about him, he really, I think, is going to be the next talisman of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, he's just looked so good. And obviously, you're not going to want to give him up looking the way he's leading the NCAA and everything. So you're going to have to give up some forwards. I think getting Ryder Korzak, that trade with the Rangers, can help the Lightning open up some space. Maybe give up a Max Groshev or a Gabriel Sturck or someone like that, or a Jesse Ulonen if they're looking to give up guys that are closer to being NHL ready. They've got some options if you look to Syracuse of guys to trade, and I think that they might not, get they might not get like a big name forward, but if they can just get someone relatively young that can compete on the bottom 6 line, then I think that can help them. But they're going to have to give up some prospects. They're going to have to give up some players from Syracuse and maybe even dip into their active roster I see guys like Mikey Acimont as players that could be on the move. Guys that maybe haven't been performing to the level that has been expected. But I mean, it's hard to really say because the Lightning, I feel like, aren't a team that builds a lot via these big player trades. I mean, obviously Guentzel was in a trade, but they gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. Right. So, the Lightning build more through free agency and frankly through the draft than most teams in the league. So, just anticipating a trade for them when they really need it, like right now, is somewhat difficult.
All right. Well, I know you'll be following it every step of the way. Josh, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Well, my X handle is below at Josh_Sperber. You can find the podcast at Locked_Lightning. We're at LO_Lightning on X. Feel free to follow us there. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast. We're there. Just look up Locked On Lightning and you can find us.
All right, Josh, thanks so much.
Thank you, Gil.
In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Stanley Cup. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor their coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. SelectQuote, they shop, you save.